Welcome, everybody. And we have Sandra on camera, and I think Emily is there as well. We'll just get her putting camera on in a second. But let's start things off just talking about productivity. This is what we're going to talk about. We touched on it last week, there she is. Productivity isn't about being busy, okay? It's about being intentional. The most successful agents don't do more, they do what matters most. And we did talk about that a lot last week. We got into a little bit of the exercise that I want to go over today, but I do want to dive into that. And then, of course, we'll do a bunch of other things too. But we are doing the complete agent. For those that have been following along, you already know who Emily is. Emily is an influencer. She's always talking to people. She likes to be a little bit of the life of the party, and people gravitate to her knowledge. So she's 1 year in the business. Her GCI last year was actually, I know it says 33,000, but that's really good for a first year, especially part-time. I think most people would be happy to do a couple deals in their first year while gaining as much information as possible and start putting systems into place. Her 2025 goal is 125, so she can go full-time with this. Actually, she's gone full-time. This isn't an option. This is serious now, right?
Yep, got to make it work.
You got to make it work,
No
and
fail.
that's
Yep.
right. She's been working really hard on all the actions and putting the foundations in place. So that's amazing. And then we have Sandra McKenna out in the Kingston office. She's a networker. So she loves building relationships with other people, bringing people together, letting everybody know who to use in terms of, auto mechanic or hairstylist, or this is the best place to go for lunch today. She networks amongst everyone in town. And by the way, when I say influencer and networker, this is disc profiling. So we have already done her disc profile and Emily's disc profile to come up with these things. She's been in the business for 4 years and had immediate success 4 years ago because of her networking ability. Her GCI 2024 was 251, 623 and 64 cents. Not really, but I just thought I'd put the exact number. She was a Centurion, which is amazing. Centurion is a sign of a top producer, put it that way. Anybody above 250,000 is given a nice big trophy. I don't know if you have it in the office there, Sandra, but it's a pretty amazing thing to accomplish. So congratulations. Her 225 goal this year is 400,000, and we're looking at double Centurion level. So that means she doesn't get two trophies, she just gets a bigger one. Um, but then she'll have two, which is nice. So welcome, Sandra. All right. Now, over on the other side, we do sort of have a full, complete plan, picture of what we go over. And this is sort of oversimplifying it, but having the right mindset, the marketing, the organization, the business plan, and then looking at your sphere of influence through your buyer and seller, right? So those two journeys and the prospecting you need to do to round it up as the complete agent. Again, oversimplifying, but if you have all those things in place, that makes you a complete agent. So our agenda every week activities that we're going to be talking about is the core foundation sphere of influence, prospecting, follow up on those prospects, working your CRM, listing and buyers. We'll talk about more about the playbook. I've added another section to it today. The playbook is something we're building. It's pretty special. I don't know anybody else in the business that has this in terms of agents and or brokerages. This is something that was self-built out with the help of Linus and actually some other core programs. I give shout out to Michael Prescott as well, because he helped put it together as well. So Linus brought this to us about a year ago, and we're just building this out, and I'll show you guys the market opportunity. So what's going on in the marketplace right now as well. So we will be discussing all those things and then going over the full 12 weeks of productivity and of all the things that make the complete agent. Last week, we were talking about sphere of influence, prospecting, following up on prospects, working the CRM, listing and buyers. We're already involved in all that. Now we're sort of putting that those actions in place that will continue and more foundational stuff. So what do we need to build out kind of week after week just to put certain pieces together? Implementations in terms of remarketer, the CRM, your marketing and branding and social media. The videos you guys are doing, both Sandra and Emily are doing videos on their social. Saw some more this week, and pop buys and updating, of course, the playbook. So, but let's get right into. I'm just going to get out of here and start asking some questions on. We'll start with Emily. Now, one thing that we have very quickly identified between the differences between Sandra and Emily in terms of their business, and that's why when we talk about coaching, it is built for the individual, right? I mean, everybody needs a core foundation, everybody needs some prospecting and actionable items, but everybody has a different way of doing it. And some people like Sandra, who's very, very busy with lots of listings and opportunities, it's going to take a little bit more time and organization to sort of back up and say, okay, I've got to put a couple hours aside to get some of the things that I really want to get built out this year. And it doesn't have to be too many. Honestly, if Sandra, if you accomplished one thing through the 12 weeks of doing this to put in place for this year, I'd be happy with that. Like really, so that you're one step better than you were last year and you're one step closer to, your goals. So, Emily, let's just first of all, how was your week?
It was busy. It
Okay,
was a
good.
good busy though. It was kind of
How's
weird
it going?
little coincidences.
Oh, good.
So
Yourself?
I go
Sorry, one
out
sec.
with one friend and other people would come into the coffee shop that I was sitting in. And so it was just a lot of really cool, fun coincidences and consequently a lot of touch points with different people, some
That's good.
intentional and some inadvertent, but also pleasant. So
First question is, how is it a little bit further up north? How are you? Are you digging out? Are you cutting trees down? Are you?
oh my God, I lost half a maple. It's
Oh,
terrible.
oh
The
my
whole
gosh.
night, it was cracking through the night. There's streets that are completely shut off. People can't get by the bike path where I am, but they're walking under like fallen trees, and I want to yell out my window, like, don't walk under a log, please, it'll crush you.
It's
So
true.
it's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
I mean, and Sandra, you feel free as well. Sandra, did you guys get any? I haven't heard a lot about the Kingston area in terms of
Oh yeah, it's
sort of
wild here. Yeah,
was
yeah.
I?
It's yeah, we lost power a little bit, but it's more the trees. Like even here at the office, there's a guy's truck out back, tree falling right on it. So many. I was at the office yesterday and it was crazy. But I have to admit, like we tend to get ice because of where we're located. So we're a weird thing. It doesn't snow as much, but we will get ice because of the lake effect. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, we were pretty much shut down on Saturday. I don't most of the stores closed, everything, but it was funny. People still tried to go to the open houses, and then I wasn't going to run my open house yesterday. But then when I went there to do the sign, there were people waiting, so I ran it. It was packed, and then I had people at the model home. Like it was, yeah, yeah. People don't care. We're like post,
Ooh,
like we're like
that's
the delivery
yeah.
men for the mail. It doesn't
Wow.
matter what it's like. We're still working.
Emily, I don't believe you have a listing currently, right?
No, but I
Okay.
did run an open house yesterday that nobody showed up to.
Okay. Nobody shut up.
Nobody was interested. A lot of the adjoining roads, though, were completely closed because crews were cleaning away entire trees. So, I
Okay.
mean, I wouldn't be surprised if
So
people were turned away.
regardless of the fact
Yeah.
that if you had a listing or not, and if you did have a listing, what I would suggest is reaching out to everyone to make sure that they're okay. This presents I say opportunity. I'm not going to say opportunity. This presents I have to say opportunity because I'm not looking for opportunities in terms of business. I'm looking for opportunities to help people. So the opportunity to help those that are being affected, and that means, going over with a generator if you have access to one, or connecting people with generators, or, helping them with some of the cleanup. And, by pitching in on this type of event, this really shows them the caring that you guys I know have, and of course helping anyone out affected. So, you everyone should reach out to as many people as they can that were affected, and just give them a call, make sure everything's okay. Okay. So moving on, Emily, you still were able to do some prospecting. So you just still did an open house. Let's start with that. The open house that you did do, uh, do you have a process in the way you do open houses, or is it, signs out
I'm
and
actually
show
working
up?
on that. Actually, while I was sitting there, I was like, what other things would I like to see at this open house? So I started making an actual tracker and spreadsheet and everything. I do try to have a few things there. I like to have my own music, and I have wireless speakers that run in the house. I like to provide water, soda water. Possibly, I'm thinking about moving to cookies as well. Um, I'd love to get a really big sign that says free cookies and open house. Um, other than that, yeah, I put out the signs hopefully as early in the morning as I can. Yesterday it wasn't within the realm of possibility, but yeah, try to get the signs out as early as possible. I also 2 days before did a tour of the property, took a video and posted it on Facebook, did an ad boost. So,
Okay. We are going like for the next couple weeks, Pam's going to be in the offices actually doing some open house training. We're going to get her on video and make sure everybody's able to watch it, first of all. She does a fantastic job of open houses. She trained me how to do open houses and most of the agents that are successful with open houses. But there is literally a really good formula. And what we're going to be doing the week that we're talking about open houses, which is going to be in a couple weeks, we're going to provide a section of the playbook, specifically checklist items of how to host a proper open house. And so continue building that list because maybe you can help us. I never thought of bringing wireless speakers, for example. I mean, that's nice little music in the background. It's always nice to have that atmosphere.
yeah.
The other thing, I mean, just as a quick rundown, open houses are most important thing at open houses is the research you do be ahead of time and the prep ahead of time. So knowing the area, knowing the last homes that sold on the street, door knocking and inviting people out to the open house, advertising the open house properly, getting as many signs out there as possible, attracting, putting cookies like this. That's great. Little things like giving Tim Hortons cards to the people you put the open house sign in front of their house, just asking permission and put that out, give them a card, say thank you, building relationships, booking in appointments after the open house, half an hour after, just to say, I've got, the latest one that just came up in John Street at 4:30. I'm going to see it. Would you like to join me? And they'll say, well, yeah, we're not doing anything. We'd love to see the newest listing. So things like that. These are all tips and tricks for open houses, and you'll see all those things being a part of Pam's open house seminar. So if you guys get a chance, so you didn't have anybody through, which is fine. Were you able to speak to any of the neighbors or anything like that, prospect wise?
I did speak to one pair of neighbors and
Good.
just let them know like that it's an open house. Let me know, do you have, and I did call and make some cold calls to neighbors in the area as well, and
Great.
just said, if you know anyone who wants to move into an area, or anybody who loves your home, especially if it was like the similar unit, um, hey, let me know, invite them to the open house. I'd love to meet them. And um, yeah,
No,
a lot
that's
of
great.
people
I
like
mean, so really, when we go down, this is week 3 we were talking about. It was last week. We are into week 4 now. So, when we go down, she did one open house. She did 21 cold calls just to kind of, invite people in and whatnot. Do you want to quickly go over some of the other things here that you did?
Okay, so I organized and attended a networking event.
Hmm.
This one was kind of interesting. So I'm part of a club called the Lady Supper Club in Newmarket. I don't know if any of you are also members. It is just a social club, over 1,000 members. You go to any of the events and you can organize any events you want. I like to organize them up here in Keswick because they don't have as many events up in Keswick, and it gives me a great opportunity to meet my neighbors. This time I organized it just as a dinner over at the symposium. I invited some ladies from the supper club who I'd met before. Another person was going to join, she didn't make it. And then I also invited a bunch of my friends to also join this club, and they came as well. So turns out I'm connecting one who's like an industrial unit project manager to somebody who does residential project management because they have kind of a combo thing. So it's making connections amongst those people, but also then when they say, that's when I say, I thought you guys should talk. And then when you need a realtor, you're going to call me, right? So it's just like little things like that. And it's still social, and we still laugh, and we still talk trash about our husbands and stuff like that. But it's just a fun little event. and I'm gonna just keep doing it because you meet new different people, and I'm all about meeting new people. If I never make a dollar in real estate, I'd rather be happy meeting new people.
Well,
It's
and you will make a
my
dollar if
joy.
you're able to meet all
Yeah.
these people because they will look for those opportunities. There's just certain things you can do in order to, remind them and tell them you're a real estate agent. Um,
Yeah.
question. So
Mhm.
anytime I hear about network events and open houses and meeting new people, have you added anybody to your CRM from those connections?
Yeah, I added 2 people from that. Yeah.
Good. And you've made notes within the CRM and, had these conversations, connected them with this person.
Yeah.
Any follow-up tasks? I mean, that's the next thing with the CRM is being able to say, okay, information's in there, but if you forget to touch base in the next actually a few weeks for that type of, a short window of opportunity just to remind people. So
Yeah.
have you set anything up in there in terms of,
I need to get better at setting up the notes or the task reminders to do
yeah,
that. I do remember to do it, but I don't always set up the task reminders for it. Yeah, so I'll try to touch base and just say, it was great seeing you kind of thing. Um, how did your conversation go with, whatever this? And yeah, try to bring something back around to it. You know,
okay.
if they're going away on vacation, when are you going kind of thing. Can't wait to
And
see you
you
when you get back. Like,
and you wrote some note cards?
I did write some note cards. Yeah.
So how did you find the content for?
So I'm scouring everything I can. I'm looking on LinkedIn for like new jobs, new promotions, so many and work anniversaries. I'm looking on Facebook and Instagram. A lot of that is like their kids have done something awesome. So some of the cards were like, congrats to the parents for Emily getting this certificate at gymnastics. It's because of your hard work and dedication that she's able to thrive, that kind of thing. And they love getting it. And I get a text back and saying, "Oh my gosh, thank you for the note." And then, yeah.
That's amazing. And were you able to either, or did you already have their address, or did you kind of research to get it? And how were you able to send a note card with the addresses?
Most of them, yeah, I have the address.
Okay. So it
Yeah.
didn't prompt you to have to go and either call them and say, "Hey, listen, I wanted to send you a little card and I didn't have your address," or any of those conversations?
No. No,
Did you bump
unfortunately.
into anybody on social media and say, "I'd love to send them a card, but I don't know where they live"?
No.
Okay.
No.
That might be something you'll experience as soon as you run out of addresses.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to
Yeah.
see, oh, that'd be amazing. And then the creative ways that we need to, you know, find addresses, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of different ways to do that, but getting addresses is super key.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Um, no signed buyers or signed listings or anything like that. No actual results yet.
No.
I would love to hear from some people that are on today's Zoom as to whether or not they think that if Emily continued doing what she's doing every single week, whether or not that's going to produce results. I'd love to know because I'm excited about it because I know personally, that's just my opinion, that it'll work. It's going to work, right? And I'm just like, the only thing that you'll actually end up having a problem with is continuing doing those items when you get busy. So that's where people typically will have a few listings on the go, get all excited and really focus on those listings or buyers. And then all of a sudden everything and that train doesn't keep going at an amazing speed. So
Hmm.
speaking of an amazing speed, I'd love to hear from Sandra, who is just at full
Yeah, let's
bore.
look at the polar opposite.
Well, no, it's an opposite in terms of, I mean, we're painting a weird picture here because as much as those actions aren't there, Sandra, we saw each other that last week, and you're starting to realize that some of the things you're actually doing, you're just not realizing you're doing, and some of the things that you've got results, but those results are coming from actions you did last year, right? Like, so Sandra, tell us about your week.
Yeah, it was a busy week. I wrote 3 offers this week. One actually got accepted finally yesterday. 2 fell through. One fell through because of a home inspection. And the other one fell through because we found it. Actually, I think I wrote 4 offers this week. So yeah, it was a lot. I did a lot of showings. Again, I work with a lot of buyers, so I do a lot of showings. So that was kind of crazy. As I mentioned, I did do an open house yesterday. I'm not, and I will profess this, not very good at an open house. Yeah, I tend to work while I'm there. I usually give people a lot of space. However, the neighbor did come over and his daughter went to school with my son. And so he was there for quite some time and we chatted for a long time. They've lived in their house since, I mean, my husband and I have moved, well, we've moved so many times that we built 12 houses. So when we lived by them, it was probably I want to say it was our first house that we built. I don't even think my husband and I were married at the time. And so anyway, it's just a connection from, 35 years ago. But anyway, we had a nice chat and I was trying to get him to buy the house for next door so he would like his own neighbors and rent it out. But so that was good. I mean, I picked up a couple of people from my model homes that are looking pretty promising. So
Great.
they're pretty good leads, I think, that are looking pretty good. But yeah, I had a couple of closings this week. So I did write a couple of cards because I did have a couple of houses closed and I always give a gift and I write a little card to go with it. I don't know if that qualifies as a note card because I'm not mailing it. I'm just giving it to them, but I'll put it in as note cards. Yeah, so it's been a busy week. It's pretty stagnant with my own listings. I mean, other than the model homes, I have a lot of condos. Those are in Gananoque. You guys, if you're not familiar with the area, that's a pretty small touristy town on the water. My condos are all on the water, pretty high end, and that's pretty slow. So I spent the morning this morning trying to, walk my clients off the ledge and be pretty positive and try and give them some, just some good news that I think is going to happen. Although, it's just very quiet for showings. I'm finding if it's not in a sort of a lower price range. So a lot of times I spend a lot of time just reassuring people that hopefully the market's going to get better and, we're waiting for good weather and hopefully things are going to pick up. But yeah, it was a busy week, and plus we had our networking. Well, we had our thing at work on Friday, so then I didn't get much done that day. But I did show some houses after I left there, so I guess, and they bought one, so I guess it was
Amazing.
okay.
Hey, listen, results are what we're looking for. So you're
Yeah.
you're getting results. Some of the things we spoke about in the past is just, all those things that you're doing. Just, you're actionable, you're meeting people, you're going to get business. The big thing actually is what we're going to talk about today is the productivity end of things. Actually, I want to just ask Dulal if he wants to unmute himself, just so everybody
Yes.
know. Just so
Good
everybody
morning,
knows.
everyone. Especially
Yeah.
good morning, Sandra. Actually,
morning.
what happened, I have question. You say last week you put 4 offer and a lot of showing. How you do that? Because what happened, yeah, last year I also Centurion, but
I was going to
number
say,
5.
Dulal, I wanted to introduce everybody because you were a Centurion last year as well. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah. Last year I Centurion and our Century 21 Heritage Group. I am the number 5. On this out of 750. But what happened, this every single day when I works, when I showing the property to buyer and I run here and there, I don't have time. Every day I sleep only maximum 5 hours, max. How you do that? Can you give me some basic idea? Is it you hire admin or something like this?
So you're asking me how I have time to show everything? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, right.
You know what? I figure it out. I work it in. For me, I probably could pass off some of my clients. And I will say yesterday, I did have a bit of a conflict where I had somebody call me. They were at my model home and I was doing an open house in the complete opposite side of the city, and they were there from Belleville, and I did reach out to one of my colleagues who I happen to know lives in the area, and I was like, hey, I just need some help here. Can you go meet these people and just chat with them and go through some stuff? But for me, it's really timetabling. I just try and work people in and figure it out. I think it's important right now. The market's tough, and I'm a bit of a control freak, so I don't know whether I necessarily trust other people with my clients. So I think clients right now, buyers especially, need a lot of reassurance. I think they need a lot of hand holding. There's just a lot. Everybody's nervous. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good with my buyers, and as I said, I did like 4 offers. 3 of them didn't work out, but I did do them myself. I know, Aaron, I'm supposed to pass that off to my admin, but I don't find it's that time consuming to do an offer, so I just did it. But yeah, I think it's just priorities for me. So yeah, do I have time to do a lot of these things in this spreadsheet? No, because right now my number one priority is my buyers. And I think something else too that we tend to forget is that having your face out there and having people see you and recognize you is huge. And I got a Facebook message yesterday from a guy who said he saw my sign, remembered me from Amersfoort Golf Course, years ago, wanted to know if I was the same person, but his daughter's looking for a house. So there's a lot to be said for facial recognition. And I know it's tough, Emily, especially like Emily, if you don't have any listings, to get your face out there. But if there's an opportunity for you to throw a sign up somewhere, like honestly, even in the middle of nowhere, it's really worth it. We're doing a bus thing here in Kingston, and the brokerage had an opportunity to put their faces on some buses. I was at the beginning, I was like, hell no, I'm not putting my face on a bus shelter, like not a chance. And then I thought, you know what, wrong attitude, because the more people see you, the more you're recognized, and then people think you're busy. I mean, I have a lot of signs out because I'm lucky, because I work with a builder. And so I just fill up that whole subdivision with my signs, even though I don't even have them all listed. I just put my signs everywhere. And he's in Toronto, so he really doesn't even know I've got a bunch of signs up there. But, I get a lot of calls, or a lot of people will say to me, not even necessarily using me, but will say, hey, oh my God, I see your signs everywhere. So I think if you can figure out some type of way to get your face and your brand out there, it's super important, probably as important as a lot of the things in this spreadsheet.
Well,
all right, Joel, I hope I answered your question,
yeah,
but honestly,
that's all. This is what this is all about. The sharing,
Yeah.
Sandra. It's amazing.
Right. Actually, what happened, my side is my client is I live in center, is Scarborough, is Toronto area. My client is one side is Cambridge Kitchener, which is around 100 kilometers far from my house, and this east side, if you go Oshawa, and would be around 50 kilometers. I run this side and the other
to
side.
Coburg. Like I drive probably an hour and a half there and back. Like I'll drive anywhere depending on my client and whether I think they're an A plus client. Yeah, the drive part doesn't bother me as much. I do a lot of thinking. I talk on the phone while I'm driving. There's a lot of things that you can do being productive, but I admit it does suck up some time that you could be doing other things with. So there's got to be some reward, a return at the end, right?
Yeah.
So Dulal,
Yeah,
one of the
good to have.
one of the things we're going to talk about, Dulal, today is that productivity thing, because I think this is both from Emily's and Sandra's standpoint. What are the most important things to be focused on, and then how do you make sure the other stuff is still happening, and how do you leverage either other people's time or sometimes, Sandra, your money? Like if Sandra's making a good amount of money every year and she's got a business plan, she should be putting aside some of that money for advertising. And that advertising is your silent sellers. And she's now leveraging a return on investment. So instead of her time of door knocking and talking to everybody and making all those calls, and I'm not saying instead, in addition to, She's actually leveraging the power of a marketing campaign where people see her face and she'll have more success. And those are typically, Sandra, when you're talking about putting yourself up on bushes and benches, not the problem, but one of the, I would say one of the things that people do have to change their mindset is not being able to quantify the cost of that. And what I mean by that is, statistically, you're going to say, you send your newsletters, your note cards, your pop buys and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden somebody calls you out of the blue and wants to sell a house. You don't know if that came from the fact they saw your name 47 times as they drove by that bench, right? You're not going to attribute that necessarily to the bench. So when you go back and look, is my bench working? Is that spend working? Just remember that, like you said, it is super effective. You just may not be able to blame it on the bench. That's
Well,
all.
I usually ask people, to tell you the truth, I will say to people, hey, so, what made you
Why do
call
you
me?
use
How
me?
did you find me?
Mhm.
I almost always ask people that, or even if people say to me, oh, I saw one of your listings, I'm always like, oh, which one? Where was it? Where were you? Like I usually try and ask people because I think that's important. That data is important to me. Where am I getting these people from? Right. I mean, that guy told me he saw a sign. So, again, that's for me, advertising, right?
Yeah.
Signs out is advertising for sure.
Yeah. When I was on a bus, I would get texts with picture of the bus right in front of them, and they go, "Oh, Aaron, you're on a bus." And so when I do a deal with them, do I blame it on the bus? I typically wouldn't, because I send a newsletter. I call them every now and then, or knew them for a long time and stuff.
Right.
So it's just one of those things to be aware of. That, I mean, there is definitely, I agree with you. As soon as you're up on a bus, people go, okay, now Sandra's a big deal, right? And then want to use you. So success.
Yeah. And I think I'm really talking about people you don't know and you've never heard of that just call you out of the blue, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's sort of what I'm talking about more so
Okay.
than, people I know or I've met or I've talked to or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And of course, if you're doing an open house and they think you're a celebrity. I mean, we've had those conversations with the kids that I'm like, Mom, kind of tugging at her mom's shoulder, like, look at Sandra, it's the girl on the bus or whatever. Like that, you think
That
that,
actually happened to me this
did,
weekend.
did it
On
really?
Friday, I was somewhere and this girl comes up and she goes, oh, you have a sign over by my daughter's school. And she said, hey, there's that blonde lady we see all the time.
Awesome.
So sometimes that does happen.
Amazing. But this really goes in, which is great. I'm going to go over to today's section of the Complete Agent, because this really does go into the content we wanted to talk about this week, right? Is the value of your time first. And we did an exercise last week with Sandra, just off the cuff, and it just happened to be part of the next section. So the value of your time, right? And what are you doing with those valuable hours and making sure that they're most productive? So we took, for example, an annual income of 400,000. And this is a good example for Sandra, and Emily, same idea with yours. Annual income of 400,000. Working 48 weeks per year, taking some weeks off, 4 weeks of holidays. You can do 46, you can do 44, you can do whatever numbers you want. How many hours per week? We did 50 last week, Sandra. I put 40 because, just as an example. I do want to say 40. I don't think anyone has to work more than 40 hours a week in order to be successful, if you're really, really good at leveraging either somebody else's time or your money. So you can still have a very successful career working 40 hours a week. And what you make per hour, and this has you at $208 per hour. I think we had 170 for last week, Sandra. But if you wanted to be a little more valued and take a little bit more time off, how do you get there in terms of the value of your time? So if everybody can do that, now I will let you know, I put this exercise into the playbook, and I'm going to show today people how to get into the playbook as well, just for reference. We're going to start putting this playbook together so every agent in our company at any point in time can access a complete agent persona, we'll call it, and eventually get to the point where we can actually have that created for agents that would like to have their own complete agent with their own information in there so they can modify it and have a different business plan. So we'll get there. But that's how you calculate the time value of your time. Now, just putting it onto a bit of a, spreadsheet as an example, for the $250,000 agent, something, just looking at specifics, right? Like newsletters, right? So the production cost of a newsletter for 100 newsletters, let's say it's $150. It takes 4 hours to create. It would cost you $520 in order to put that together. Where if you paid an admin, let's say, $20 an hour, at $150 production cost. So so 150 is $230. So I just gotta remember how I did that. $150 was the production cost, so the actual cost of it, but having the admin paid to do it. You would only be charging or costing you $230. So it'd be half the cost. Having a third party do it, however, because the admin is not actually putting together a newsletter, so not going out and putting the pieces together. So the newsletter, the writing, the look, design, the print, the fold, the cost to deliver it, all the sort of stuff that you're paying an admin to do. But if you paid a third party, so that would be a company like our newsletter with Century 21, or there's others that will create that as well. They only charge $160. So when you decide to actually do a newsletter, the question is, are you going to do one yourself and write it every month and put it together in an envelope and go and take it yourself? Are you going to pay an admin to put it together and take it and pay them to do it? Or are you going to leverage the fact that this third party does it every single week for people all across Ontario or whatever it may be, and they're able to scale down the cost? So you need to make that decision in your business plan as to what are you going to do. And most people, when they first start out in the business, they're like, I have time. I can do this myself. And not only that, I can be really creative and feel like I put in a full day's work. And that's all and great, but it's the wrong answer. It is absolutely the wrong answer, because it was, well, I've got all this time. I said, okay, well, let's talk about what you're doing with that time. I know you want to feel good about it, about the fact you're working a full 40-hour work week, but everything you do when you first start out in the business should be focused on people. And if it's not face-to-face over the phone, or doing something from a marketing standpoint, or something where you're actually talking to people, it's not as productive as you can be. And we'll get into that. Door hangers, for example. I talked to one agent. I think she's still, I remember her name. I'm going to give her a call because I know she's probably still bouncing around a little bit trying to find out who's going to get her the right information. And I think I had it right from the beginning, but that could be wrong. I think it's right, but I had a great conversation with her, and she was a super hard worker. I knew she would be great in the business, but she was doing all the things herself and not talking to anybody. She would literally spend hours putting together a door hanger newsletter. She'd go grab them. She'd go and actually put them on every single house in the area. I thought that was great. So hard work. I'm like, are you knocking on the doors while you're there? No, I'm just hanging them. I'm like, do you know what you could pay somebody to hang, those doors? Like, kids in high school will definitely go out and hang them on doors for you. Like, you don't need to do it yourself. Now, if you were knocking on those doors, it's another story. And but she would do a farm area of homes and be walking it every single day. And again, if you're talking to people, it's different. So these 800 door hangers, production costs of $150 to produce them, 8 hours of your time hanging them would cost Sandra $1,000. It would cost Sandra $1,000. Sandra, if you went out and said, I just want to get some exercise and put out door hangers, it would cost you, in terms of your time, $1,000. To have somebody do it, and I say it admin, but you could just pay somebody to do that for you. It would actually cost you $330. Or if you get somebody really cheap, or a third party to do it, which, by the way, was the same, because really it is a third party that's going to actually pay to door hang. You're not going to pay the Canada Post to door hang. They're not going to do it for you. You have to pay somebody to do it. But it's still, I don't know, percentage wise, but definitely a third the cost of having somebody else do it. And then your client service calls. Obviously, it doesn't cost you anything to make a phone call. It will cost you for 10 hours of calls, $1,200. Or, and sometimes if you can pay an admin. Now, I can't pay an admin to make my client service calls. You can. You absolutely can pay somebody else to make your client service calls for you. right? All those dialogues and scripts that have nothing to do with giving advice in real estate are touch points, right? We're setting up this, we're doing that as a team. Where it's Jim Smith calling on behalf of Aaron Richardson. I'm looking after an event that's coming up this weekend, and Aaron really wanted you to come out, and I just wanted to give you that invite. Stuff like that, right? You're paying somebody else to make those calls. And Min, it'd cost you $200, right? So it just gives you an idea. Emily might be doing the numbers and realize, okay, well, maybe you are paying yourself, for, last year, for example, at 33,000, it'd be different. But this year you're up to 120,000. You're not paying him in 120,000 to do these things, but you are going to be able to pick and choose which things you should be working on and making sure it's balanced. When we go back, actually, Emily, if you want to unmute yourself for a second, if we go back to last week and think about all the things and actions you did, right? And we're going to get into the ones you should be doing for a second, but is there any of those items that you can look back and go, actually, I want to see percentage. What percentage of the week was in front of people and what percentage of the week was just organizing and doing things instead of actual prospecting?
Okay. Counting the cold calling as prospecting in front of people, I would say I'm roughly 50-50.
Okay, so really break that down. I want you to think about it this week, okay?
Yeah.
Because I want to know the real absolute truth. You worked 40 hours last week, let's say, Emily, did you?
Yeah, at
Okay.
least.
So let's say you put in 40 hours. Did you do 20 hours of open house, cold call, and networking?
And SOI calls, yeah, if I include that too.
Sphere of Influence, yep. So
Yeah.
really, if you actionably wrote those down, the open house took you how long?
That was 2 hours there, but a little bit of prep
Yep.
beforehand.
Okay, so let's say 4 hours.
Mhm.
Right? So 4 hours of the 40, right? And then any of the, so what about 21 calls? How long would it take to make the 21 calls?
The 21 calls, I was so interrupted that day, so it took me longer than it should have. Probably 21 calls is going to be no more than like an hour typically.
Okay, so we're up to 5 hours. And then your networking, you did, your network
Yeah.
group, great.
Yeah,
How many
I
hours
did
you?
some networking. That was, I guess maybe an hour of prep over the last 2 weeks or so. And I was there for like 3 hours.
Okay, so 6, 7, 8, you're up to 8 hours.
Yep.
What other, anything else, right? I mean,
And
from a
just like
prospect.
SOI calls mostly.
Okay, how many of those?
I don't know what I put here. I need to update it.
That's okay.
I think I said like 12 or 13. It's probably
Okay.
higher. It's
Even
probably,
like another hour,
yeah.
right? So we're up to 9.
No, like because then you get chatting and then
Yeah.
you're
10,
talking like 5
2
hours.
hours, 5 hours.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I had an hour yesterday just in driving. I was driving and I had a nice long chat with.
So that's what I would love you to really hone down and do,
Yeah.
right? So now we're actually, you're looking at a spreadsheet. You love spreadsheets. That's why I'm kind of picking on you a little bit because you're so organized, which is great. But being able to actually say those hours were spent literally in front of people, right?
Yeah.
And then how many hours are spent doing. So, on social or whatever it is. Now, sometimes if it's conversations or DMs and stuff, that's okay too. Those are productive things. But I just breaking that down, knowing that those productive things are being most and highly productive. So things that are automated systems that you can have done for you can leverage either money, really is what it comes down to, or just literally just let them do their silent work. Things like obviously newsletters, right? They're always working for you. You're going to spend a little money on that's actual mail newsletter program. Your CRM nurturing, right? So that, is the special occasions and or newsletters on your CRM. Spotlight listings. I put that on there because it's an automated system. When you get a listing, it's $139. You'll probably pay for photography and extra stuff as well. But you have a system that'll, let's say your total listing is going to cost you $500, but it's $500 well spent because they do a ton of things for you. Virtual offers. These are the systems that we have. We have virtualoffer.ca. Are you typing your own offers or are you having somebody type for you that can save you time? Back at You Media does some silent marketing on social media. Testimonial Tree automates your testimonials for you. Remarketer open houses, that's another system within Remarketer that helps keep track of everything that comes through an open house, and also will put them on nurturing program for you that will follow up on your open houses. Your farming flyers, those are money spent, but it's an automated system that goes out and just sends. So you're not doing it yourself. Somebody else is doing it for you. Your Google Calendar is automated system. You know, it reminds you, it time blocks you. Broker Bay in terms of, you know, all your organization of your listing stuff, as well as I think it does your open houses and stuff as well. Just Listed, Just Sold cards, again, things you can leverage in terms of money. Remarketer birthdays, it sends it out specifically on the birthday. You don't have to remember. So these are some automated, as an example of things that you can do. The things that are time wasters, and Sandra, feel free to pipe in on this stuff. We'll start with the first one, unqualified buyers. Have you guys ever worked with an unqualified buyer before? Which means you said, hey, I'm so excited to get this buyer, but I have that awkward conversation, haven't done a buyer presentation yet, really haven't found out if they're, you know, qualified from a financial standpoint. By the way, I'm going to be the first to put my hand up. I spent a year with an unqualified buyer, a whole year.
Same.
And I got to the point with this one buyer. I said to Jen, she was on the team at the time. I said, Jen, do you want to take over for me? I just can't seem to. So she took over for me. She actually put an offer in, then found out she was going bankrupt. And the lady told Jen, she said, don't tell Aaron. I feel terrible, right? She was not in a financial, this is way back, right? But I worked, and I just thought, what a great way just to build a relationship. She was a nice lady. Anyway. Sorry, Sandra, you put up your hand. Tell us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get this all the time where people have either inflated their buying power. Now, if at all possible, I ask them who their mortgage person is. I have a conversation with their mortgage person. I've also had people who've done stupid things prior to buying a house where then they don't qualify, you know, because it can be a long process. So, you know, if it's a year later and then they come back to the market, a lot of times they actually qualify for more. But in certain situations where, of course, I've said, please don't change your job, please don't buy a truck, please don't get a new credit card. Everybody does it. And then they can't believe that their credit has changed. So yeah, I just worked with a woman probably for a year and a half, showed her tons of houses. When she started with me, she told me she could spend 600,000, quickly learned that that was not the case. And she just ended up buying a place for $340,000. So we spent a lot of wasted time going through some things. But you know, you live and learn. I'm a lot better now than I used to be. I don't think in the beginning, I asked too many people if they'd spoken to a mortgage person or what they qualify for. Now it is definitely one of my first questions I ask is, have you spoken to a mortgage person? Do you know what you're qualified for? You should do that first before we even start looking at houses. And I mean, that is my conversation and that's my pitch now for sure.
Okay, I've got one question for you, Sandra.
Sure.
When you put an offer in on a house and you're representing a buyer,
Yeah.
what percentage of the time are you actually in contact and know their mortgage specialist?
Oh, I usually ask them who it is. I will text the mortgage person, especially if it's somebody I'm very familiar with and I know, and I say, hey, we're going to put in an offer on this house, give them the address. I tell them the price that we're putting in. I go, tell me whether or not this is doable or not.
And
so quick text.
rank out of 10, the importance of that relationship with the person that's getting their mortgage.
The buyer or the mortgage person?
So the rank out of 10, how important it is that you're in touch and you feel confident with their mortgage.
10 out of 10.
At 10 out of 10. Like, I feel the same way, Sandra. And I'll be honest, I'll step on a soapbox for a second. If there's anything you can do in real estate to make sure that your buyer purchases a house, is have a relationship with the person doing their mortgage.
100%. I can't. I have the greatest guy who I have done deals with at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, and who will take my call. His girlfriend was in a car accident. He goes, okay, I'm just at the hospital, Sandra, but I'll run home and I'll make sure. And I'm like, no, we're good. But if you've got a great person, the other thing is they will give you referrals. Usually people that go to them have an agent, but it's a fantastic relationship to have. And I don't think I could survive in my business without it.
Yeah. So when we get into the buyer journey, which we're going to do next week, I really want you to put an emphasis for everyone on that, because it is on the buy side, my mortgage broker, always, always, always my number one resource.
Okay.
On my selling side, it was my stager, my number one resource. It was the number one reason why I got referrals. The number one reason why I can say I was selling so many houses. It's just the most important part. And if we have any mortgage brokers currently listening right now, I hope you're hearing what we're saying, because if you're really good at what you do, you're going to get lots of business. But if you're not calling people, you're not following up, you're not taking a phone call at 10 o'clock at night because Sandra's giving you a call, then you're probably not getting as much business. And Sandra's a networker, and you just proved it there, because you'll sing the praises of your relationships that you have with third parties. Dulal, you had a
I was
question?
gonna say, as a
Sorry.
former mortgage person myself,
Ah.
it's honestly, it's important to the mortgage people too that you get them pre-qualified, because if you've come and you've got like a firm deal and I've got it in hand and I have to find a way to convince an underwriter to approve you, like that is so much stress on them too. And then you have to find, all kinds of ways to see if I can possibly get you approved, knowing that it's a long shot. So
Yeah.
it's appreciated on both sides. I can tell you
Yep.
that.
And Dulal, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I feel that this on real estate is most important part about the mortgage. This mortgage. We can show property, few property, maybe 5, 10, never mind, deal is done. But the main important part is mortgage. Now, you see, a lot of clients say, hey, I want to buy the property, but can you help me to get the mortgage? On this situation, I asked Erin, what is your experience and what should we do? Is about the mortgage part. What happened, yeah, I take risks, a lot of risks is going on, so that a client say, okay, I want to buy. At first I check their credit score good, then I say, okay, you can buy the property, I'll handle for your mortgage. But what happened, a lot of mortgage agent, they take longer time and last minute they approve. But do you have any better idea which way can solve this problem?
Yeah, get a better mortgage person. Bottom line. Just get a better mortgage person. Like, there are, just like real estate agents,
That's why asking you.
just get a better mortgage agent.
Okay, I need to get from your mortgage agent number.
Oh, I've got a bunch, and they're all sent to mortgage professional.
Oh, send
No,
from no.
no. What I'm saying,
Happened,
no, what I'm saying
listen.
is that everybody's going to have their relationships, and whoever you decide to use, you need to interview them. You need to sit down with them and see how serious they are about their business, and you need to test them a couple times in terms of, picking up their phone or, getting people qualified. Make sure to do it the right way. You do not want to be down the wrong road of mortgage broker. We could really get into a lot of that, but you choose wisely, and make sure, and not just one. Right? I'm Sandra, I'm sure, has not just used one mortgage broker. She needs to have an arsenal of mortgage brokers, because if one's away, if one's dropped the ball, if one is this and one is that, and you have certain people that are good with elderly, and other people are good with first-time home buyers, other people are really good with investors, commercial. Like, you need different people in all those.
Well, I also think it's important that you give them an option too. You shouldn't just give them one person. I mean, yes, we have, with my model home, we deal with RBC and they give a lot of really great deals to people buying the model homes. So I do recommend them, but I always recommend my other guy as well, because he seems to be able to pull rabbits out of a hat. And so, it really depends. But yeah, you should have more than one person. It's not a good look. It's like a lawyer. Always make sure you've got 3 that you send people. You don't want to just be sending one person all the time.
Exactly. I always say, depending on the situation, I'll flip them around, but I'll say, here's 3 mortgage people, start from the top, work your way down. And,
Yep.
and you know, and you're going to put the one at the top that you think's the right fit and see if they choose it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
I
perfect.
talked to a lot of mortgage broker in our Centum area, this brokerage. But problem what, you need to what, this, if you are 100,000 income, you can make, you can buy property 500 or 600,000. But if you're 100,000 income, if you want to buy $1 million property or 1.5 million property, how does works?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So Jalal, like, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, I mean, I'm not saying it does or doesn't. Yeah, you really shouldn't, because I don't know everybody's specific situation in terms of their income and ability to, but there's different types of, properties out there. Maybe they're an income property and they are able to leverage the fact that they're renting out the basement, et cetera. So every situation is different, but we're not mortgage professionals. We're not going to be able to give that advice. I'm
Yes,
going to find
yes, right,
somebody,
yes, right.
right?
Yes, right.
And
I was looking
yeah.
what, I was looking some mortgage agent. Example, I am the buyer. Okay, I have 20% down payment. That means is if I buy $1 million or $1.5 million property, I can pay 300,000 is down payment, 20%, and I can pay this what this land transfer fee, everything on my own money. But my income is less than 100,000 or 50,000. I looking for this type of mortgage agent who can done this deal.
So
But A
Jalal,
lender, no B lender. A
Well,
lender,
I
no
think
B lender.
at this point we'll probably have this question offhand, but I would say that if they can't afford it, there's not a if they can't get qualified, you move on. Not everyone can afford a house, or find something that they can afford. I mean, you're having these great conversations. You're trying to put the right people in charge, but you can't squeeze a blood from a stone. Or is that the analogy? You can't make something happen that can't happen. So just be careful with that. But yes, there are mortgage brokers that are better at certain situations. And is it in the client's best interest to be over leveraged? Probably, in a lot of cases, depending, but probably not. Sandra?
I think it's important that you're not also expending a ton of energy on this. This isn't what I do for a living. I actually, I'm hoping they get qualified and they will get qualified for an amount, but I'm not going to waste a ton of time on it because I'm not the person doing it. That's somebody else's job. My job is to find them a house that they can afford. And you're exactly right. I don't want them to be house poor. So, we'll chat about what it is that they are qualified for and we'll talk about the best way to go. But I am not, I'm just like, here, call these people, let me know. It's a pretty
Sandra,
small
you said it
conversation.
perfectly. I've always
Yeah,
said that. And we
I
do
like
have to.
Sandra.
Yeah.
I like Sandra what she say. Actually, I spent a lot of time last year. My this around 380 something like this. But what happened? I spent a lot of time about the mortgage because
Yeah,
a
move
lot of
on.
client
Like there's
say you have
way
to take
smarter
care
things
about
to
them.
do with your time. Like,
Yeah, that's
I'm
why
not a
I
lawyer.
changed.
I don't talk about lawyer things. I'm not a mortgage person. I don't talk about mortgage things. People ask me closing costs. I go, I have no idea. Call your lawyer. Like, I'm just not going to talk to people about things I don't know enough about. I need to spend my time and their time talking about real estate, which I know.
Yeah. We are going to move on this topic, but I will just finish it off because I want people to really understand the value of people's time and being able to calculate. So whether it's Sandra's situation, my situation, tally up the hours that you just spent with that person, times it by how much you pay yourself per hour, and realize you just cost yourself $5,000, $10,000 worth of time going a whole year showing properties that, they're never going to. Now, if they give you a referral and then all of a sudden you made some money, that's a whole different story. So we get relationships are important, but to Sandra's point, every aspect of your job, if there's a person or professional that does it better and you can leverage their time and pay them a little bit of money, such as a stager, trying to do staging yourself or be a mortgage broker yourself and all these things I see agents doing, I'm like, wow, how do I convince them not to do that? How do I convince them not to think that they are everything that they think that they can take a little bit of money here and there and save money? I'll do my own staging. I'll buy my own furniture. I'll be my own mortgage broker and get some money on that side. And I'll also be, I've got somebody saying right now we could be a part of a law firm, and like I don't want to get into law, mortgages, or financing. I don't want to spend any time on that because I know that those people can do it better than I can. And as long as I know how to leverage relationships, I'll make more money. And we as real estate agents, and this is where the mortgage brokers and the lawyers and everything, they look at us and they go, per hour productivity, real estate agents make the most per hour. And they're jealous. really, because they know that we get paid if we're good at what we do. Because we're in sales, we're selling. Sales will always be the highest price per hour of any profession. And so anyway, I could go into more, but let's talk about other time wasters. Paperwork, obviously, right? Summarize all the paperwork you do. Anytime you touch a piece of paper, if you can pay somebody else to do it, you should be doing it. It's the right answer, right? It is the right answer. I know if you like it, and Sandra's smiling, I like doing paper, but if you like it, that's great. There is one thing I have no problem people doing is their own offers. I got no problem with that. The technology has come far enough now with our templates and we're good at what you can get in there and do it in 5 minutes. It's not a big deal. Put some thought to it, make sure to do it right. But if we're good at that, we can do it. It's your offer. Do it yourself. I got no problem with that. It's the other stuff. It's the tidy up. It's the 20 other things that need to be done. Social media, it needs to be leveraged properly. It's the easiest thing for us to get down a rabbit hole with. It is also the importance of how powerful it is. So that balance is really, really important, but it can be a time waster 100%. Negativity is what I want to talk about, not the most time, but a little bit today. Negativity right now in the marketplace is what you're going to need to overcome. That's a time waster, big time. I'll tell you how it's going to waste your time is if you get talking about the tariffs too much, talking about the fact we're down 30% year over year in transactions, and last year we were down 30%, so really we're down 60%. If we start getting negative about that, we're going to start doing less because we think our time that we're leveraging is for no reason because there's nobody buying and selling. I hear this every day. I think it's the biggest mistake. Do not let any of that stuff that's happening right now get in your way. The fact is if you leverage up and think of positivity, we have sold 2,000 homes in the last month in the area. There are transactions happening. The question is are you the agent they're calling? Are you there when they need to make a decision to buy and sell? So don't let the negativity waste your time because you'll start doing less things in order to get the results. And the disruptions, right? Emily was just saying this, right? She was making her calls and she goes, oh my God, it took me so long to make my calls because I kept getting distracted, right? So those disruptions, the distractions, you need to back up and go, how does that never happen again? How do I lock myself in a room, tell everybody my expectation if you don't come and talk to me for the next hour, I'm making my calls and get through it, right? Sorry, go ahead, Emily.
One thing I wanted to ask, I'm having a hard time having a positive conversation to people who say, what's going on with the market?
Oh, perfect. You
And
just said that to me. So let's just
I
say,
need you to give me your spin.
are you kidding me right now? To now is the best opportunity we've had in the last 20 years to purchase a property. I cannot even believe that anybody would say that right now is not the best time. It's crazy. Do you see the confidence I come with? Do you think I'm right? Because I
Yes,
know I'm
I
right.
think you are, but I'd also say, what do you say to the sellers?
What I just said.
I
They'll
think-
feel it.
So, I mean, I spend, and I already talked, I spend Monday morning sending an iGuide report and to every one of my sellers, and I talk to them about it. And the one thing I try and do is, yes, I say, you know what? Yeah, the market's a little funky right now, but here's the thing. I'm so excited about what's going to come, and I just know things are turning around. I feel it in the air. You know, like you can hit on the fact that, yeah, things aren't the best. However, I think if you can, the most important part is to reassure people that things are going to get better. And I mean, I say, listen, real estate's cyclical. If you tend to look back, you're going to see, are we in a buyer's market right now? Absolutely. Is that going to change? 100%. And then, you know, there's ways for you to spin it that kind of take away from, you know, am I right? Who knows, right? But the thing is you want people to trust you and believe in you, but they also have to know that you're positive and you're confident. And I think that's one thing, like I just got a message back from one of the people and they're like, Sandra, we just love it. We love your positivity. Thanks so much for letting us know. So, you know, it's just another week of me, these people, you know, believing in me, hanging on. So I think, you know, yeah, the economy sucks. We all know it. Move on, right? So it's a buyer's market for sure. If you're dealing with buyers, man, it's easy to tell them, buy right now. Don't even bother waiting. You're going to pay way more. So there's definitely you know, I just think if people start with the negative, and people love to focus on the negative, and everybody loves to talk about the drama and everything else, and just take the opportunity to change it. And you really have to be positive in your tone, in your attitude, in the way you talk. And I think it's contagious.
That
Yeah.
100%.
I do try to be positive. I just feel like the words coming out of my mouth have the authenticity of like Carolyn Levitt. Like it's just like, is everything coming out of my mouth bullshit? You know, kind of thing.
Perfect. But let's
And I
talk
struggle
about
with
that, Emily, because every situation has an opportunity unless you believe in it. And you can sell anything as long as you believe in it. And right now, I'm so confident in that because I have done enough. I've been in the business long enough. I've done enough research, and I know those people who are successful, like Warren Buffett, right? You read his book, just watch him like 10 minutes online on YouTube about when you should be purchasing and when should you be selling. And if you're doing both, it doesn't matter, but you're in the market. So when you're purchasing, you purchase on a low, you buy on a low, never sell on a low, you buy on a low, right? You buy on a low. So buyers right now, is the market lower than it is been in the last 5? Yes, right? We're in a great market. You have the pick of the litter of the inventory that's out there, and we're on a low. How long that low is going to happen, we don't know. So we circle the low of the market, and it doesn't matter if you're on either part of the low. The fact is it's on a low. So the answer is yes, you buy. Okay. And the top, when it goes back up, okay, we knew when we were on a high. We knew that the market was doing amazing things. We knew it was in a seller's market. We knew that we could get good prices, and we knew that was great. If you can always just be in those two markets, buying down here and selling up here, you're going to win in the end, right?
But how
If-
can you? Like, if everybody's
Yep.
buy is contingent on the sale of their current house, then they are both a buyer and a seller at all times.
Perfect.
And it's going to feel great on one end and suck on the other.
Perfect. So there is a graph you can
This
do,
is out.
right? And this is I love doing this, if everybody can see, you got a low and you got a high. You just have to plot where we are in order to have this conversation. Okay. If you're buying and selling in the same market, you can always make money. So if you're right now we're on a downwards and it's kind of gone down here. We expect it to go back up, but let's say we're on a downward slide. Let's say the market's heading downwards. Is it better to buy first or sell first? Because you got to do both.
100% buy.
So if you buy on a downwards market, it's safer. No, it's
No.
not.
It's not.
If you're not to say you're wrong, but work with me on this trajectory here. You're going downwards. If you buy today, is
And
it
you
going
can't
to be,
sell.
hold on, if you buy today, is it going to be worth more in the future? And let's say the next month. No, because it's probably going to
No.
go lower, right?
Yeah.
So if you sell today, is it going to go down? The answer is yes.
Yes.
So if you sell, you're getting more than you would if you sell in a month.
Right.
So you sell today, and then if you buy tomorrow, which is in a month, let's say, you could make up a difference by selling on a high and buying on a low because the market's going down, right?
Mhm.
I'd have to do it on a piece of paper to make it really, but how you make money in a downwards market is you sell first, buy second. Okay. And the best part is it's less, you're less liable because you have your house sold, and now we can shop for the next, do a long close, 6-month close with maybe an opportunity to bring up the closing if you find something. But now you've sold your house, and now everybody else is sort of coming down in price, and then you finally find a good one, and then you buy here. And now you've actually made a little bit of a gap in between the two. And then there's always the selling or buying on an upwards market. It's the opposite. Right. And that's actually on an upwards market. It's more risky because you're selling first, which means, you're going to have your house selling and then it goes up. So you're buying first. Sorry. You're buying first, which means you've bought and you haven't sold your house, and it's really risky. So the upwards market's actually harder to do. So it's actually more advantageous on the buy side on a downwards market, right? So that you can sell first and buy second. So it's just a matter of convincing people to put their house up right now, and you're in competition. You need to be competitive.
Can I say something? That also depends. Like someone who has a townhouse want to sell it and buy like something a detached house for 2 million.
That's a better scenario, Faith.
Yeah,
It's a better scenario.
it's a much better scenario. So
Yeah,
they
because
can,
the price of a
yeah,
detached home has come down 100,000, where the price
yeah,
of the townhouse has only
that's
come
what
down
I say.
50.
They
So you've
usually go and buy the one that they want, and
yeah,
then if they are flexible to sell their townhome, they can do it easily in this market, even in this market. But if they are tough, they don't want to go a little bit lower or stuff like that. So then it's a problem.
yeah. Yep. You always have to look at the scenario that you're in, and you got to look at the price of the homes, the demographics of the homes,
Exactly.
everything.
Yeah,
But what you're
exactly.
doing is you're sitting down with either a buyer or seller, and you're going through, let's look at your situation, and you draw the graph, you plot the houses, and you say, this is what we're going to do as a strategy in order to make you some money in a downwards market. And you can do it. There's a really good Floyd Wickman, I think it's who did it. If you look up Floyd Wickman, how to sell your house on a downwards or upwards market, hopefully you can find that video. It is on YouTube. That's where I've learned, like, these strategies he comes up with, you can win in every market. You just have to know how to position yourself. And by the way, you say, this is what we're just going to go for. But the reality, and most people will say this, if you're buying and selling in the same market, I mean, it works. It's a wash, right? Essentially. So think about that. But there are strategies. Right now, I would be selling my house first. I would be asking for a long close, which a lot of buyers will do. And you get a 6-month close. And now you've got 3 good months of finding that amazing deal, amazing house, because there's lots of inventory. It's a perfect time.
I'm going to
Moving on.
challenge myself to embrace positivity and maybe
Oh,
even make
yeah.
a social media post about it. I'll try.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Productive. Oh, by the way, anytime you do a social media post, you should be explaining how it is a good time, how this can be to your advantage. Okay, productive time. These are the things you could be doing, right? Pop buys, obviously face to face. Calls to your ABCs, that's voice to voice. Network groups, face to face. Open houses, face to face. Presentations, face to face. Face to face prospecting. Calls to your don't know prospects. The people that are on your phone that are like taking up space on your phone, and you're like, why are they there? Give them a call. That's voice to voice. Working your CRM, updating, researching. That's a doing, but it's the 8th thing on there, and everything else is people, people, people. The only thing with 8 is you're organizing your people, and then you're making your calls. Online seminars, face to face. Video emails, face to face. These are all things that you're building your relationships. You're reminding people you're in the business. And if you're not doing these things 80% of your week, you need to shift your time for the week to do them. You know what I mean by that, right? So that's why I'm like, write down what it is you were doing all week, where you were spending your time, and making sure that those things were 80-20 on the things that got you the most results in the face-to-face relationship stuff. And it's pretty straightforward. And it's the same thing with Sandra's businesses as with Emily's. You focused on the most important things. The only difference is Sandra can leverage her money to buy time, and she can buy her time at a discount. She's spending $25 to make $175 an hour profit. That's what she would be doing if she, sorry, Sandra, this is making a case for a full-time assistant, but if you spent $25 an hour, 40 hours a week, you just bought yourself $175 an hour is what you bought yourself. And you're actually putting it towards plugging in my laptop so you guys don't get cut off. I'm just give me 1 second. Okay. Now I always put this in at the bottom, so I'm going to actually exit out of here and show you guys how I've put that into the complete agent. Just give me a second. Yeah. So I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to go into the playbook. Now, to explain how to get into the playbook, I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to log out. Okay. So when you go to heritageplaybook.ca, yeah, heritageplaybook.ca, you're going to see a login screen. And this is a work in progress. This is only available to the agents that are currently watching right now, because I'm not going to be promoting this because it's a work in progress and you guys know the context. So you guys know what's happening and that it is not finished. However, you're going to go in and you're going to say, I don't have an account. And then you're going to sign up with your Century 21. Okay. And it'll allow you in. So that'll be your login is signing in. Okay. If you actually don't sign up with Google, it doesn't work, just hit create account, it'll work. Okay. One of those two. I haven't tried the Google, so I have connected to Google, but it may actually work, I think. But the create account, your name, email, your password, sign in. I happen to have the Google, so I'm going to sign in using my Google, and it'll get me into the playbook. Or it doesn't, because this Google account is already in use. Great. Yeah, but I logged out. Oh, it was I was logged. Now I need to log in. Never mind. I was telling it to sign up. There we go. So when you get into the playbook, you'll have the different shelves that are on your library of information. We've already talked about the inner game with the vision, health, happiness, the tenant journey we're going to get to, the seller journey we're going to get to, the prospecting we're going to get to. We have talked about the My Year Lead business plan. So that was the first thing we did. We have got into a little bit of marketing. We have a landlord journey as well, if you're working with landlords, buyer journey for buyers, the business structure, which we've gone into, and the sphere of influence and book of business, which we've talked about as well. Today, within the business structure, I should put it in two different things. So whether it be business structure or business plan, but I'm going to go into the business plan for a second. I created a productivity section. Okay, so if you click into productivity, you can how to calculate your worth of your time, right? So your value of your time. So I put in the structure and how to do that in there. So if you want review, I've also put in there some less productive tasks. So all that administrative repeat tasks, data entry, booking appointments, creating, organizing your digital files, preparing listing paperwork, managing your email inbox, marketing in terms of designing, scheduling social media posts, creating brochures, flyers, listing package, posting MLS listing to third-party websites, updating websites and blogs, creating monthly newsletter content. That's all time wasters. You can, not time wasters, let's put it low, low, low. Emily, you may be doing a lot of this stuff as you are, but it should be the 80-20 rule. Don't spend a whole 80% of your time with all this. It should be 20% of your time with this. Client nurturing tasks, following up on non-sensitive leads, sending birthdays, anniversaries, asking for reviews or testimonials, conducting satisfaction surveys, mailing postcards, thank you cards. This is all administrative work. This is something you can pay yourself, pay somebody else to do. Again, Emily, if you're doing that, 20% of the time, right? Operations and technology, managing your cloud file storage, Drive, Dropbox, whatever you're using, setting up tech tools for automation, and we've talked about those, troubleshooting minor website issues and backing up data, device, all that kind of tech stuff. Again, something you can leverage. In-person errands, installing, removing lockbox, signs, documents, staging items, picking up keys, dropping off promotional materials, coordinating a home staging, cleaning services, being present for home inspections or sorry, got to take that one out. Home inspections are needed to be done by you and or a qualified person. Contractor visits when not required. So I'm going to show you how this works. You will be able to edit at some point. If you do the editable version, you can go down and you can, I did that on purpose, just so you guys see how I do this. Actually, I'm going to take this whole section out because even contractor visits are going to be an issue. Okay, save page. Who can help? Your virtual assistants, your marketing coordinators, your transaction coordinators, your part-time admins, freelancers, design, writing, tech setup, anybody that's willing to work on your business. If you're taking Marianne's team program, you will notice that she has a different person hired for different tasks because they're good at what they do. An administrative person that is high C in their DISC profile aren't necessarily going to be best person for your social media. You want a creative person, somebody that might be a little more outgoing and or service related and creative. So that might not be your C. It could be. It just depends. But look to the experts that do things really, really well in order to put those less productive tasks into place. Your productive tasks, high value tasks are in there as well. Things like lead generation and prospecting calls, door knocking. These are things that obviously we already went in there, attending network events, referral building groups. That's what Emily was doing last week, creating personal video messages to leads and contacts. By the way, I've seen some of your videos, great videos. You've sort of got the tip of the iceberg there. There is a ton of other things you can do on video that is really pretty cool. And those things would be me opening my phone right now, hitting video and just saying, hey, I found it was your birthday today, and I just want to wish you a happy birthday. Hope everything's going well, and then just send it to them. That's almost as good as doing a handwritten note. right? A video message to somebody, they're like, why didn't you call me? They think it's cool. They're just like, I was busy, you know? So those sort of things would be great. Where was I? Let's go to client building relationship stuff. So conducting buyer seller consultations, hosting client appreciation events, delivering exceptional service during a transaction, of course, checking with past clients for referrals and repeat business, building strong vendor partner relationship, mortgage brokers, inspectors, lawyers. That one we talked about today. That one's cool. Negotiation and deal management, negotiating contracts and offers, strategizing with clients and pricing, problem solving, managing client expectations. This sometimes, by the way, is a big mistake for, like, if Sandra today, you had a full-time assistant, we'd be talking about things they shouldn't be doing, right? And a lot of people are leveraging some of their admin stuff, that things that they should be doing. So make sure that's a clear definition of what they should and shouldn't be doing. The strategic marketing and branding, filming educational value-driven videos. This is new. Like that is now a big deal. Developing listing presentation buyer guides. Only you know your value. The actual doing of the putting it together is fine. Work with somebody on that one. But just going through it and making sure that that value is there. Creating personal brand content that reflects your expertise, analyzing market performance and adjusting strategies, reviewing and improving your Google profile and online reviews. That could be a bit of an admin if you trust your admin to know, you know, you really intimately knowing what your value is. Business and planning development, review your metrics, updating, revisiting your business plan, attending coaching sessions, identifying new niches and target markets, hiring and training and team member assistance. These are all things only you can do. We are starting to leverage a little bit of this with assistants. So, Sandra, for example, if Melissa is not able to be your assistant full-time, she could hire your assistant full-time. She could be the one that's actually going out, making the phone calls, doing the interviews, explaining things, training, everything. She could also be leveraging our assistant program within the company. Somebody like Brandon, any of our front desks will spend time with your assistants to help train them on things like SkySlope and all the rest of it. Mindset and energy management, time blocking your day, protecting your personal time for rest, exercise, clarity, delegating distractions so you can stay focused, journaling, reflecting when challenges, staying connected with the whys. People, this is the last thing sometimes I forget to do and work on all the time, is making sure that we're balanced with your work life, making sure that you're time blocking, but also saying, hey, regardless of what I pay myself, it's not always about money. That 40 hours is for money. The other 40 hours, it's not 40 per, well, no. Does anybody work day? How many hours? Does anybody know the answer to that? I should ask ChatGPT. How many hours are available in a work week with 8 hours of sleep? Anybody know? I am curious. Can I ask Nova? This is how I just so everybody knows. I know it's a bit of a Google thing, but my ChatGPT is now literally my assistant. So here's Nova. Go advanced.
Is that working?
It should be
5 days
about
or 7 days?
112.
Well, let's see. Hey, Nova, I'm just trying to figure out the amount of time that is available for personal and work. If I'm sleeping 8 hours a day, and there's 7 days in a week, I work 40 hours of those. How many hours left over for personal?
62.
Hey, Erin. So if you sleep, all right, so with 168 hours in a week, after subtracting 56 for sleep, you have 112 hours left. If you work 40 hours, that leaves 72 hours for personal time.
So 72 hours. So that's kind of cool, actually, knowing that you have 72 hours and working 40. So what are you doing there in those 72 as part of the coaching as well? So those 72 hours, are you doing things that, you know, are for rest, exercise, clarity, family, etc.? So half of our, more than half, almost double of the rest of the time spent should be on the things in order to make your 40 most productive. And that's being good with, you know, when you go to work, that, you know, you're rest, restorative, relaxed, etc. My ring's helping with that, believe it or not. I know I'm brought up in the past and a lot of people are like, tell me more about your Aura ring. Well, it tells me when I'm restorative. So when I've taken time for myself and when I've been, you know, working. And when you're working and talking and going through that, you know your heart rate increases and you know that. So it breaks up every day. So I know when I need to spend a little bit more time on the, you know, on the me and less time on the money. So those are ways that we can do that. So I hope you guys see some value in that. Emily, you were asking, how do I get into were you able to get in?
Yeah, I was able to get in. I just can't make any edits yet.
Perfect. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're making sure one person, me, is going through and doing edits so that it is neutral for everyone. And then what we're going to do, and I can do it a little earlier, is get Michael to do a full copy over hosting on your own domain and stuff like that. So these are things we're working towards. My only concern is that anything that I do to help your productivity, you will not get as soon as I make a copy of this. So that's the key, is that I get through the Complete Agent 12 weeks, put as much great information in there so that it gives you a lot less work to have to do, and that you can just change that. If you decide your high value tasks are a little different than what I've put in here, great, not a problem. You can go in there, cut, paste, modify, it becomes your business. And again, I'm pretty excited about this. I really want to start promoting it because as an industry, I know there's nothing like this out there where it's like here, handing it over. And I want to thank Linus, of course, for putting this together, but also the feedback that I received when even, going through some coaching sessions and talking to other agents. And I know Linus got that feedback for some of his agents. It's like, I wish somebody would just hand me over all the checklists and everything organized in a nice little bow. And I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. How do we get there? So I appreciate all your help to help put this together as well. So that's where we're heading towards. We're right on to, I'd like to open it up, Sandra, Emily, feel free if you have any final questions, and if anybody wants to ask any questions, feel free to. I'm looking at some of the meeting chat stuff. Thanks. Mitchell's been participating nicely over the last couple of weeks. Appreciate that, Mitchell. Still haven't met you in person, have I? So we're going to meet. I'm actually up in Hamilton on Wednesday if you're around. Paula, got the link. Perfect. Sell first, then you're stronger when you buy. That's true too. Sometimes it's not about the money at the same time. That's a good point, Tammy, regardless of whether or not you're on upwards, downward market. Sometimes it's just the risk scenario you're in with your sellers and putting yourself in the position to be able to go and negotiate really strongly because you have your house sold. If you don't have your house sold, you're typically, one of those buyers that aren't as strong negotiating.
Yeah, and I think right now we see a lot of SPPs. So
Yep.
It depends on, the low end market, the 300 to 400 is a super tough competitive market right now. So we can say it's a buyer's market, but not in that price range because it's becoming competitive. We're into multiples. Buyers are getting pissed and fatigued and all the things that happened before. So that's a tough one right now. Definitely higher end. We're seeing tons of SPPs and a lot of those deals falling through because there is no sale on the other end. So it's I say this all the time, it is a weird market to negotiate or like to navigate right now and negotiate because it really, you're trying so hard on this low end stuff, but the high end stuff isn't necessarily moving as quickly as people would like it to. So we'll see what happens. The interest rates don't affect usually over the $1 million people. So it's kind of weird right now.
Yep. 100%. Vita asked a question. I'll ask you, Sandra. So let's say, Sandra, you were working with a buyer and the buyer says, no, I don't feel comfortable right now sharing my mortgage broker and who I'm working with.
I've never ever had that happen because I'm very open, honest, candid. I have a really great relationship pretty much with every single person I deal with. They're very comfortable with me. They trust me. So I would say if it did happen to me, I would say, you know what, I respect that. That's completely up to you. However, it makes your life and my life a lot more seamless when we're dealing with this transaction. If we can cut out the middleman and I can deal directly with them, that way there's nothing lost in translation. We don't have to keep going back and forth where you ask me something, I send it back to you, you send it to the mortgage person. And I say sometimes, I can have a conversation with them and tell them things that maybe you don't understand, or, you know, things that are going on, and I can keep them up to date. So again, I respect everybody's wishes and their decision, but sometimes I think if you explain to them that it is really not about me finding out about their finances, it's really about me, you know, answering questions or being knowledgeable with their mortgage person. They don't necessarily have to tell me everything, but they can certainly ask me any questions that they might have.
Amazing. And again, that's such an important now. One of the things you had mentioned, and this is a great introduction to what we're going to talk about next week, and a little bit of homework if you guys have some time, I'd appreciate it. It'll definitely benefit you in the end, is to start looking at your buyer journey. How do you take a typical buyer through a purchase process? And, you know, let's see what's in there so far. I've put in a few things. I put in a buyer presentation. I've put in how, you know, the process of showing properties and doing offers and conditional affirm and closing and after closing and comparable market. When I do a buyer presentation with a purchaser, like Sandra's saying, she would never have that question come up. It's because, Sandra, you take some time to sit down and say, okay, let's go through the whole process. They will understand the importance of that presentation and financing.
I've never done a buyer presentation, but I will
You
say
have, Sandra.
I
You just-
talk a lot, so
No,
I
no,
guess
you
that's
have.
my presentation.
I know.
Just been a verbal one. Yeah.
We are going to talk about that because I had a great conversation with Linus and actually everybody out in Kingston last week. And we talked about the #1 team in the world, and that's for Century 21. They did 10 million GCI. Imagine that, your team doing $10 million in commissions. That'd be nice. So for him, his struggle this year, because we talked to him, was getting a buyer presentation or selling presentation. Actually, it was a listing presentation. And he's like, I don't have one. And we're like, you do $10 million a year, you don't have it. Well, you do have one. You just don't have something that's formalized. And that's okay. Should you have a formalized buyer or selling and buyer presentation? And the answer is yes, because some people are C personalities that want the paper and they're like, you know, interviewing you. And Linus made a great point. You will have people win presentations because the feedback from the sellers were, you know what, I'd love to go with you, a nice really, but this person came, they were so prepared, they have everything right there for me. Like they just wanted somebody to have that whole preparation. So the answer is you should have both. So regardless, you do one, Sandra, buyer presentation. It's just not formalized in a nice little, you know, folder. And there may be some buyers that really need that. So it'd be nice to have and hand to them if, you know. So, and in that presentation, you're just going to remember, this is the reason why I used it every time, is because I remembered to go over the important things and didn't forget certain things. And sometimes when I thought I did it, you know, oh, I've spoken to them for an hour about things at an open house or whatever it was. There'll be something that comes up and goes, oh, geez, I forgot all about that preparation for them for that. I'll give you an example of one that came up, and I remember this scenario. The people went back for a buyer visit before they purchased the home, right? They do that buyer visit, and they were so disappointed. Like they were shocked, and they were really given pushback because when they saw the house the second time after they purchased, it was a mess. It wasn't staged. All the stuff's gone, and they were freaking out. They're like, what did we buy? And so from now on, when I did in a buyer presentation, I put it in this buyer journey. I put in there, be prepared when you do your buyer visit. It will not look the same. The staging will be removed. You will be disappointed. It's called buyer's remorse. You'll go through it. So when it does happen, I'm going to just remind you of this. And because you prepared them for it, they're like, this is what you were talking about. And it really, really helped. If you didn't have a formalized presentation, that sort of stuff gets forgotten to remind yourself to go over with them. So what I was hoping to do next week is to have, I'll go through our buyer presentation. It was literally my old one, or my old buyer seller presentation, my listing. When I say old, I mean, it's been updated, of course, over the years, but I just remember putting this together for the first time. We're looking to always improve on it as well. So this will give us a really good opportunity to look at everyone's, better the ones that we have, and just move forward with whatever you decide to do on your presentations. But that's your journey. You literally need to know that your service in the end, when somebody says, how did Sandra do with your purchase, should I use her as a realtor, they'll be like either, oh my gosh, she's so helpful, so amazing, so knowledgeable, and all the rest of it, which is I'm sure what they say now, right? They may add in a few extras. Oh my God, she's super amazing, because you wouldn't imagine, like you should see the, you know, what happened here and what happened there. She overcame this problem and she made it way better. Like we're just looking to better that experience, whether it be on the buy or the selling side. So if there's any little tips and tricks along the way, but if you do have time, start writing what it is important to you down in a buyer journey. And it could be anywhere from the actual presentation, which really should be everything that you do to support them. But taking, you know, a few notes and thinking, you know, what is it that you do different about showing properties than anyone else? I'll give you an example. That was a tough one. Like, what do I do differently? I always find some key things about a house that nobody really knows. How do you determine the age of the home? You can look in the windows if they're original. You go to the sewer when they're, you know, to find out when the subdivision was built, and typically that's the age of the home. That's just an example, but those little things. I go to the basement. I look at the, you know, the dishwasher basin. I give it a shake. If it's not connected to the ground, that's actually a deficiency on the house, and or the, you know, the copper wire that's kind of loosely attached underneath. And I go down and I shake it a bit, and they go, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just checking. The whole house is grounded with this one wire, and if it's loose, you could be, you know, lightning strike, anything can fry your stuff." Like you just start going into these little things. That's part of my showing properties. I don't walk into a kitchen and say, "Hey, here's the kitchen. What do you think?" Like, yeah, we know, Aaron, it's a kitchen. I'll go to the one item that they weren't able to really notice, right? Same with offers, same with conditional and firm, and what happens during those times and closing and after closing. And, you know, so think about that. And we're going to talk about it next week.